And welcome back to Lower Intermediate Conversation with Professor Kent Lee. In this video segment, we are going to talk about some word choice issues, word form problems that are common for many East Asian students learning English, and also some kind of colloquial expressions, and informal contractions and other expressions that are important. Well, it's important, one, so that you can understand the distinction between formal and informal and what you would want to say in a formal context, like in a business context, versus an informal conversational context. And some of these you should also know and understand, not that you need to use them, but in order to understand English media. And anytime you listen to TV shows, movies, pop and rock songs from the English-speaking world, we use these all the time. It's very commonplace. And it's very helpful to know these in order to understand media in colloquial conversation when you're talking to English speakers casually. So first, let's look at adjectives and participles. And the common mistake, a lot of East Asian students from different East Asian countries will make a mistake like this. They'll say something, I am boring. And I want to say, yes, as soon as you walk into the room, we all fall asleep. No, I mean, I wouldn't say that, but that's how a Westerner might sarcastically respond. I am scary. Yes, you really frighten us. You're a terribly scary person. When the person means to say, I am bored, I am scared, I am tiring. Yes, as soon as you walk into the room, we all fall asleep. No, I don't think you want to say that. I don't think you want to say that you are amusing or disgusting or exciting. Oh, that might sound bad. I'm interesting. That would sound weird. Like, yeah, like I guess your psychotherapist finds you interesting. Okay. So the important thing here is the distinction between, for example, the ing forms and other adjectives, ing forms that are functioning like adjectives versus, say, the ed forms. So if you say, he is boring, that means he is the cause or stimulus, the cause of boredom. He is boring. He is scary. He is tiring. He is the one who makes others tired or scared or whatever. The ed form is for the experiencer, the person experiencing the emotional state. The ing is the cause or stimulus, the cause of the emotional state or mental state. So I am bored. I am experiencing boredom. He is boring. He causes boredom. He is tiring. He makes us feel tired. I am tired. I am experiencing tiredness. He is scary. He makes us scared. We feel scared. We experience fright. British would say, you gave me a fright, and Americans would say, you scared me. A little difference between British and American. Okay, how about these sentences? What do you think of these sentences? Russian is difficult, makes sense. I am difficult. Yes, you cause us a lot of difficulty. Yes, you're very difficult to deal with. It doesn't sound good if you say I am difficult. Why? And I hear Koreans and Japanese make this mistake regularly. And obviously these predicates, these verbs, adjectives function differently in Korean than in English. The subject of these expressions is a cause or stimulus. The subject is a cause or stimulus. The Russian is difficult. It's causing me difficulty. It's hard. I've got these verbs, I am difficult. If I say I am difficult, it means I cause difficulty for other people, which hopefully I don't. Sometimes it's fun, but no. You could say, so to express the experiencer who is experiencing difficulty, well, you could say Russian is difficult for me. It's difficult for me to learn Russian. And it is, that's kind of a substitute. I could say learning Russian is difficult for me. Or I can move the learning Russian or to learn Russian to the end of the sentence and replace it with it, it is referring ahead to learning Russian. It's difficult for me to learn Russian, or learning Russian is difficult for me. I'm having difficulty with Russian. It's a very different way of expressing it. So the subject of these expressions is the cause or source of difficulty. The experiencer can be expressed with a for after the adjective difficult. It's difficult for me. Some other expressions like this, it's easy to learn Russian, it's hard to learn Russian, it's tough to learn Russian, it's difficult to learn Russian. Learning Russian is easy, learning Russian is hard, learning Russian is tough, learning Russian is difficult. Here's a slang expression, it's a cinch. A cinch is a noun, it means something easy, it's a cinch. Oh, it's a cinch to learn Spanish. Learning Spanish is a cinch. Be careful, you hear this expression, Russian grammar is a bitch to learn. That's a vulgar expression, and the origins are of course sexist, so be careful. I don't really talk like that generally. We do hear people more and more saying this, including women. The origins of the expression are sexist. It is a sexist term. Although in expressions like this, it's a bitch to learn, or it's a bitch, it's something difficult. I mean, more and more younger women are using that expression, but still, especially if you're a guy, be careful, because even if it's not taken to be sexist, it is vulgar. It's not something you want to use in polite company. Blame and criticize, what's the difference? Don't blame me. I'm not blaming you, I'm just criticizing you. It's different. And so apparently these are maybe the same verb in Korean. So I hear people make mistakes with this. These are two different things. Don't blame, don't criticize me for not doing the report. I'm not blaming you, I'm just criticizing you. So what's the difference? Criticize means to just critique, to make a negative assessment, to point out something wrong. And sometimes even criticism, of course, is not good to receive, but it's not the same as blame. So if I criticize me for not doing a report, you're just making a negative assessment about me and my work in the situation. But if the boss blames me, to blame means to actually assign fault or guilt or wrongdoing. You did something bad. Maybe you didn't do the report, maybe because you didn't pay attention, you were lazy or something. But if the boss blames me for not doing the report, he is saying, that means he's saying it's my fault. I'm at fault, I did something wrong. You could criticize somebody for not doing the report, and maybe just some unusual event came up and they couldn't do it. It wasn't their fault, but maybe they deserve criticism, maybe for not, doing it anyway. But that's not blame. Blame is like, well, they did something wrong. The fact that they were lazy or something and didn't do it because they were lazy, some fault or blame or guilt is involved. Now let's talk about some formality levels, formal vocabulary. Can you think of some? Okay, there are probably lots. I'll just talk about a few of the common ones that I see. What are examples of formal versus informal word choice expressions, particularly word choice? Here we're going to focus on nouns and adjectives. Just what are some examples of like formal, informal word pairs? Some words that are informal. And can you think of some informal words that people learning English as a second language maybe overuse? They use in formal situations when they need to use a more formal word. Can you think of some examples? Okay, I'll just provide a few. Anyway, this is kind of as we discussed in our last video, it's kind of a transition marker. Getting back to the topic, it's very conversational. If you're writing, informal writing, you wouldn't use it. It's maybe okay in a semi-formal situation, like a business meeting, which is kind of semi-formal. maybe more formally in conversation, formal speaking, maybe let's get back to the topic, or as for, so that's very formal, as we mentioned last time, as for, as regards, as to, regarding, things like that. Or just now with an intonation, or to start a new sentence with a high intonation. The company is planned for the future. I'm shifting a topic in a meeting with a high tone on the beginning of the sentence. Our company's planned. Well, besides, again, this is fine for informal, even semi-formal contexts, like conversation and meetings. If you need to be more formal, in addition or furthermore would be good. Words like good and bad, they're kind of negative or pejorative, like negative in meaning, but they're also vague and very colloquial. They're very general in meaning, so they're very colloquial. And in a formal situation, you want to find a more specific word. Negative, ineffective, adverse for bad. Instead of good, sufficient, excellent, ideal, optimal, effective, beneficial, something like that. Huge is really colloquial instead of huge, or big. Big is kind of vague. You know, something else, large, enormous, massive. Kind of, sort of, these are kind of hedges or softeners, and it's very conversational. If you need to be more formal, you can say he's somewhat inattentive. In other words, he doesn't pay attention, he's dumb. He's slightly inattentive. Kinds of, sorts, so kind of, maybe type or variety, form of. Like, so we talked about like as a quotative and like as a softener. And of course, like can be a conjunction. If you need like as a conjunction or preposition, it's common even in, even sometimes in more formal English. But if you use it too often in formal English, it will tend to sound informal. So sometimes if you need to be a little more formal, you can substitute it. This is like what Microsoft did 10 years ago. Instead, you could say this is similar to what Microsoft did 10 years ago, or something like that. For example, for instance, lots of is colloquial, so to be formal, many, numerous, large amount of. And instead of nowadays, currently, recently, stuff that's very colloquial, even kind of slangy, even thing or things, it's kind of very general and unclear. It's always better if you can, even in semi-formal context, to use a more specific noun, such as matter, matters, issue, affair, object, items, factors, device. It really depends on the context, because these mean so many things in different contexts. Finally, way. Now, sometimes you can't avoid way. This is a way to the mountains, you know, can't really avoid it there. But like a way to do something, and that's fine, there's nothing wrong with it, but if you use it too much in a formal context, it will start to sound informal. So this, for more variety, instead of saying like this is a way to do it, you could say this is how we do it. A new way of analyzing statistics, a new method for analyzing statistics, a new means of something. The manner in which you did this, more formal. More formal word choice. So thing again, as I mentioned before, sometimes instead of some of these other general nouns, sometimes you can use more specific nouns. I think I talked about that before. Now, let's look at certain kinds of verbs. Verbs that indicate state or change of state. And again, I might have mentioned these before. Let's just look at these again. The monitor was suddenly changed. That sounds funny. The situation was existed, and that's actually just ungrammatical. You can't say that the situation existed. The monitor was suddenly changed by the evil operating system. If you have a cause involved, or you want to imply a cause, you could say the monitor was changed. When you express the cause, the monitor was changed by the operating system. But if you just mean the monitor changed by itself, then you say the monitor suddenly changed. It's a change of state verb as an intransitive, a tadomsa. A clamor was arisen in the room. That sounds funny. this was happened. That just sounds odd. We don't talk like this. These verbs need to be, if they are intransitive, they need to be proper intransitives. The situation existed, this happened, this tended to be, the clamor arose, has arisen. The chemical compound consisted of, something needs to be changed. Well, only you would say needs to be changed if you mean a cause or an agent, something to cause it. But what you really mean probably is the situation needs to undergo a change. And you're not specifying a cause. Was broken, if there's something actually breaking it, it was broken by the waitress or something, but it fell off and broke. So here again, the monitor was changed by itself, sounds strange, but it was changed by the operating system. That makes sense. Next, let's get into gender and language again. Would it be okay to use these terms for adults? Me and the boys are going out for dinner. Maybe in a colloquial context, if you're referring to yourself, me and the boys, maybe. That sounds kind of colloquial, sounds kind of cute. But otherwise, would you refer to another guy as a boy? Like I'm seeing that boy, I'm going out with that boy. That sounds weird. And I've heard Asians do this in English, but it just sounds odd because it would be kind of insulting because you're kind of saying the person is not mature. The boy. Oh, you're talking to that boy over there. He's not a boy, he's an adult, he's a grown man. So guys would not be happy if you refer to them as boys in English. What about girl? Is it okay to refer to adult females as girls? Oh, that's a nice girl you got there. Oh, are you talking to that girl over there? Colloquially, it's not unusual in English in colloquial situations, but be careful. Because in many situations, it could be understood as sexist. Like you're making a judgment on all women as immature or girls. Because in English, we usually refer to adult males as men, guys. Okay. There are a lot of guys in the workplace here. You say there are a lot of girls in the workplace, that's kind of insulting, because if you say men or guys, but then you say girls for the women, that sounds insulting to the women. So really in business context, professional context, academic context, don't refer to adult women as girls. I mean, obviously don't refer to guys as boys. That just sounds weird and silly. We don't really do that really in English, unless it's like me and the boys, but that's cute, self-reference. But referring to adult females as girls, like, oh, there's a new girl in the office. Don't say that. Some women, especially a feminist, not just a feminist, but some women might be offended. Like, I'm not a girl. I'm an adult woman, and they don't want to be treated. It's kind of like a double standard. If you say the guys, but then you say the girls in the office, it's like a double standard. The girls are kind of objects, they're cute, they're playthings, or they're immature. That's what you're implying. So be careful. Again, for gender biased language, we might have talked about this before, but for more examples, instead of salesman, you could say salesperson if you don't know the gender, business person, chairperson, etc. Steward or stewardess, actually more days now we just say flight attendant because it's gender neutral. And sometimes it's not important to distinguish that was a male or female. And the word steward and stewardess have just become less popular. I don't hear the words used much anymore. Again, police officer, congressional representative, congressman, or member of parliament here in Korea or the UK instead. How about mankind? Well, meaning generally you can say humankind, humanity, human achievements. Instead of man-made, you can say synthetic. Instead of the common man, the common or average person. To man is like a person is working the position. Instead to staff, man hours, staff hours, work hours, maybe. So watch out for gender bias in language, especially in academic and professional contexts. Again, we mentioned the pronouns here. Again, using like the he or she, you do this, we do say this sometimes in more formal spoken English, but again, if you use it all the time, it can get a little awkward. So maybe just using the plural, like they, them, their, is easier instead. Now, you might notice, well, obviously you've noticed that you in English is both singular and plural, and you find that frustrating? I do, especially since I've learned many other languages. I've studied others at least a little bit, learned about others. And yeah, I find it annoying. English is the only language I know of that's like this. So why do we just have one you in English? Do you know? And how do we get around it when we do want to express like you plural? You know? Let's look at the history. Up until a few hundred years ago, we had separate singular and plural forms. Singular, so the grammar was different. Wouldst thou, that's you singular. So for second person singular, the ending in the verbs was st, wouldst thou, hast thou. Dost thou, instead of do you, like dost thou, dost thou. So wouldst thou desire another portion? Good Shakespearean English there. So thou was singular subject, or we have invited thee to our party. So thee is the object, thou, thee, singular. Thou is the subject, thee is an object. You was the plural. Would you desire more portions? We have invited ye. Ye was the object form of you. Would ye? We invite ye to our party. What happened though? Well, you, if you know French, in French, the plural, the vous is like the this older English you, plural, but vous is also used like in French for formal, either singular or singular or plural. So in French, singular is tu, that's like the thou, tu, informal you singular. And vous is the plural you, but it's also formal. So if you're talking to one person or a group of people, formally in French, use vous. And it was the same with English. You was plural, but it was also formal. So wouldst thou desire another portion, you would say to your friend, your coworker, but to a person higher up or older than you, like your boss, you would say, would you desire another portion? Not thou. But what happened was in England, over time, the formal you people started using it more for informal situations. I guess they were being more formal and more context, more. So they kind of overextended you from formal address forms in order to be polite to everybody, I guess. They started overusing it. And it became the general you for singular and plural, and the thou and thee dropped out of the language. And of course, the verbs change. Wouldst became would, for the you. So we just have you, which is kind of annoying. Now, different dialects have ways around it. A number of dialects have created expressions, and a lot of dialects are colloquial or just general colloquial English, especially American English. It's common to say, you guys want to go out for dinner? You guys. Although some women, and I understand this, find it kind of gender biased or a little sexist because it's guys, although it's just you guys. New Jersey, US, they say use guys, like putting a double S, double plural, use guys. Sounds weird, but some people in New Jersey dialect say that. New Jersey is a state on the East Coast, just south of New York State. I grew up in the South, in Texas, and everybody in the South, everywhere in the South, say y'all. It's a contraction of you all, for you, the plural you, y'all. Y'all want to go out? And I find it normal. I still use it sometimes. It's convenient, even though it's dialect. Y'all. Yeah, it's natural to me. Very common Southern pronoun, Southern US English, all throughout the South. There are a few places in certain Southern communities where they say you-uns, like you ones, you-uns. Now, British people, they might say you guys, or in colloquial British, they often say you lot. What's that? I heard that. I learned this from a student of mine, a British student. Well, sounds cool. I like that. You lot. Lot is like group, a group of something, a group of, including a group of people. A lot, like a lot. We have a lot of something. So lot, a group. So you lot want to go out for dinner? You lot coming up to the pub tonight? And that's convenient. So from the UK, you can use you lot. Probably generally in English, you can get away with you guys, but if you're a feminist, you might not be comfortable with that, and other feminists around you might not be comfortable. So if other people are saying it, and if you are okay with it, you can say you guys. I kind of don't like it though. I prefer y'all or you lot. That's what I prefer. Maybe someday I'll campaign to make those official in English. But anyway, some other things we do in colloquial English, often in pronouns and other minor words, function words, conjunctions, vowels get reduced to short vowels. You becomes y, would you, or even ya, to that extra short that we call that vowel schwa. Linguists call the vowel schwa. The name of the vowel is from the Hebrew language. It's Hebrew, the Hebrew name for that vowel sound or the vowel letter, because it's an important vowel in Hebrew. So we use the Hebrew name schwa. So the name of the letter is schwa, or the symbol. So you becomes you, or ya. You like it, and becomes n, like rock and roll, just n, or and, or n, reduced. Or becomes for becomes for, it's for sale, it's for sale. We don't usually say a or an, it's usually a burger, an apple. It's really reduced, it's really short. That schwa is really short. And so Asian students sometimes have trouble hearing it because they're not used to such a short vowel sound. Because you don't have this kind of these length distinctions in your East Asian languages. So A becomes a sort of very, very short, hard to hear or un. And the, we don't usually say the unless you're being emphatic or emphasis, like, no, I want the burger, or I want a burger, I want a burger, or an apple. If you're being, unless you're emphasizing something, you just, these reduce your schwa. So the burger, the apple. Maybe before another vowel, the apple, in order to pronounce the two vowels, the apple, you might say the, but even in colloquial English, it's common to say the apple, the apple, the apple. But otherwise, it's the book, the computer, the pen, very short, very brief. Some other things we do, so we reduce a lot of these short grammatical words, pronouns, and conjunctions and stuff. And that feeds into other kinds of contractions. Of course, you becomes you, them becomes n, get them. What do you, and then with pronouns and other function words, you get these kinds of contractions. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? Okay, what are you doing? What you doing? What you doing? Would you becomes would you? So there's kind of this blending, sound blending. Would you becomes would you? And this blending happens only really just with function words or minor words like pronouns and modal verbs and auxiliary verbs and things like that. Would you, would you, would you, don't you becomes don't you want to go? Let me, give me becomes gimme. Children say that all the time, gimme. I bet you, it's like I'm kind of certain I would bet, and I would bet you this is the case, I bet you. Like I believe, I suppose, or I'm pretty sure that this is true. Gotcha. Gotcha. Some others, of course, in a lot of dialects in colloquial English, bet you, I suppose, I reason, gotcha, like I understood you, gotcha, like I understand, or I agree, gotcha, I understand. Sometimes H gets omitted from pronouns. Getter can be get her, and get him, you mean get him. But it can also be get them, get him. Depends on the context. Some other contractions with other kinds of verbs. Don't know. I don't know. Don't know. Okay, give me I'm gonna go. The immediate future, I'm gonna go. I gotta go. Like I have to go. I wanna go. Kinda like a qualifier or a hedge or softener. It's kind of cold here. Outta, like let's get out of here. Some others with some other modals, like for other tenses, shoulda. That means should have. So it gets the should have. I should have gone. We don't say it like that. Maybe the have will reduce to an of. I should have gone, and then reduces more to should have gone. I should have gone, could have gone, would have gone. So could have gone, or could have gone, would have or could have gone. I would have gone or would have gone, and so on. Musta, maya, mighta. Want to, wanna. I have to go. I have to go. In British, it's like I'm gonna go. British English, isn't it? It's like isn't it in British colloquial British slang, isn't it? Isn't it now? Can, and this is confusing. How do you distinguish can and can't? Well, can just reduces to a schwa oftentimes. I can go. Can you go? Yeah, I can go. But can't doesn't reduce. It's still the vowel, sound. I can't go. Oh, you can't go. No, I can't go. You still hear the full and the kun. I can go. Don't say kun. Don't put stress on it. It's very short. I can go. I can go. Notice the stress, the rhythm. I can go. Can you go? Yeah, I can go. It's extra short, and that's how you distinguish those two. Finally, ain't. All right. So I don't recommend that you use this. It will sound awkward if you're a foreigner in the U.S. or in Britain and you're saying ain't. It might sound awkward unless your English is just highly fluent anyway, and you can sound natural speaking in dialect. This is a common dialect form. It occurs in many dialects of British and American English. It's a contraction from am not. For some reason, it was kind of stigmatized by prescriptive grammarians, the grammar Nazis, basically, who write the grammar books and they think they can decide what's correct and what's incorrect. They kind of stigmatized it. They didn't like it. All other contractions were okay. They thought don't for do not, can't for cannot. They were fine with that, but they kind of thought ain't doesn't sound good. We don't like it, and they made up these silly rules that ain't is bad, it's incorrect, it's bad grammar, and it's not. It's just very common colloquial and dialect grammar. It occurs in so many dialects, in so many forms of colloquial English. You hear it in pop and rock songs and TV a lot. And it originally came from I am not, a contraction, but it has become a very general use, not just for the first person like I ain't going, I ain't gonna tell you. But not just first person, like I ain't the one, but he ain't it. We ain't the ones, they ain't. I ain't going. I ain't gonna go. Okay. So in any context, just about any context, you can use it as a negative form of be, or even for past tenses. I ain't gone yet. Like I haven't gone yet. I ain't gone yet. And notice that also notice that the ing form of verbs, doing, I'm swimming, I'm going, I ain't going. So in many dialects in colloquial English, they don't say I'm doing it, they say I'm doing it. I'm going, instead of I'm going, I'm going, I'm going. Instead of saying I'm swimming, I'm going swimming tomorrow, I'm going swimming. Yeah, I'm swimming tomorrow. I like swimming. You hear that in a lot of dialects. Instead of ing, it's an n, swimming. I'm doing it. I'm doing it now. No, you ain't doing it. You ain't doing it at all. I grew up in Texas, and that's just normal for me to hear. I grew up in Texas. I don't really talk like that anymore. I grew up in a kind of a small or medium-sized city in Texas, so I had a mild urban Texas dialect. But then I started watching a lot of British TV shows on TV, and then in college, I started hanging out with foreign students. That's really cool. So those influences, because foreign students are not going to understand some of this Texas pronunciation and stuff. So I started kind of standardizing my dialect, and then the British stuff was quite an influence on me. Then I moved to the Midwestern US, and I pretty much lost my Texas accent, even though it was a relatively mild one. It's kind of hard for me to talk naturally now in Texas dialect. I can kind of fake it, I guess, but it's probably not how I used to talk when I was a teenager. I've kind of lost it. I think another influence was there were some things about Texas culture, conservative culture I didn't like, and I just wanted to get away from Texas and Texas culture. At the time, there were some prominent American politicians from Texas, and for me, it was a negative association. The right-wing politicians, some things in the culture. I mean, today I now appreciate some things about Texas and and how I grew up, and some of the culture. But at the time during my college years, I didn't appreciate it. I had negative reaction to some things, and I lost my Texas accent. So I speak kind of a standard American accent. But even then, I still say y'all, and I don't have a problem with ain't. I don't use it too much unless I want to be cute or humorous or imitate a dialect, but I don't consider it wrong. It's kind of cute. You will hear all of this stuff a lot in British and American media, Australian too, I guess. Or if you're talking to people casually, people from English-speaking countries. A lot of people talk like this, especially in casual, informal conversation. So I'm not saying you should talk like this, but you should recognize this. You should be able to understand the stuff when you hear it. Okay, any questions? Post them in the comments, especially in LMS comments. You've got assignments to do, and I will be keeping you up to date on stuff with announcements, probably in LMS or by email, as I need to. So from now on, I'm just going to give you time to work on your final presentation. I don't think I'm going to do more video lectures. I think this is the last one, that I have to do, I hope I'm right. Don't want to get into trouble. Let me know if you want more or need more, but I think this is it. So good luck on your final presentations. I look forward to listening to them, and I will email feedback to you on your final presentations and your final grades before I actually enter grades into the computer system. So good luck. Good luck in your finals in my class or classes, and good luck on your other finals, and enjoy your summer. And I hope I will see some of you in a live class this fall semester. I hope things get back to normal, because I would love to do live in-person class with physical students, actual live humans. I miss that. It's really hard for us professors to do online teaching and to teach classes like this, especially language classes. It is highly unnatural. That's putting it nicely. It's highly unnatural to teach language classes like this, and I've had to really adapt and do things really, really differently than what I would like to do. But I hope we can have a real class in the fall. Some of you will probably might end up taking one of my classes or more in the fall, and I hope to meet you then. So good luck and enjoy.